My name's Jaclyn Broadbent.
I'm Shaun Iles.
And today we're going to present a framework on using online tools to enhance teaching and learning. So just to give you a bit of an idea about what we're going to do, we'll introduce ourselves, we'll talk about why this process. We're going to talk a bit about Gamson and Chickering's 7 principles of good teaching. We're then going to do 2 activities. That's right, it's all about you doing work in this workshop, and we're going to come around and talk to you as you go through the activities.
On paper, which is super weird at a
I
digital
know,
learning conference.
but we couldn't. I came from Australia, so it was a bit hard to pack 50 iPads into my my bag. So then, for all your hard work, we're going to give you some Tim Tams and show you how to do a Tim Tam Slam. And I've got like 100 of them, so seriously, you need to eat them because I've been eating them all week and it's terrible. So this is me. As I said, I'm from Australia. I am in the university sector. I work at Deakin University. I'm the Associate Head of School Teaching and Learning for the School of Psychology. But I also teach into first year, a really large class that has 1,500 students in it right now we have 1,500 students in it across 4 different campuses. Those campuses are hundreds of kilometres apart. I've actually never been to some of the campuses that we have, and we have a really high online student population. I'm also a fellow in the Centre for Assessment and Digital Learning as well in Deakin Uni, which means I get to do lots of fun teaching and learning kind of scholarship things there as well.
And I'm Shaun Iles. I'm from Mohawk College in Hamilton, Ontario. I am a professor of sustainability and sociology, as well as a coordinator of campus-wide initiatives. Teaching large classes, not quite as large as Jackie, but upwards of 200, a little bit above, online. So the principles we're going to talk about today are pretty key in our ability to manage those large classrooms. So, just by show of hands, I'm kind of trying to see everyone's badge lanyard color. How many people are university higher ed? And let's just jump down. K to 12? I saw one. I only saw you. Corporate, government, healthcare. Kind of. Anyone else that I missed? No.
Okay, so they're mostly higher ed.
Yeah, that's good. So, teacher, trainer, instructional designer, sometimes, developer, administrator, okay, IT, support. We got a mixed bag.
We really do.
Pretty good. So, you might ask why you would want to utilize these 7 principles and the activity that we're going to get you to do today. For educators, you want to ask yourself, obviously, constantly, how can I improve my teaching? If you're not asking that, if you assume that you are at your pinnacle, then obviously you're never moving forward. Educational developers, how can we improve the teaching and learning for the institution from the class, program, or course level? And then academic developers, obviously, how can we help others improve their teaching, IT, how can we get better use of the online system? And institutional leaders, how can we improve student learning, outcomes, satisfaction, progress, and retention?
The big thing that we want to highlight here for us is this is actually about teaching and learning. So not about the technology, even though this is a conference for Brightspace, and it's not about whatever discipline you teach into or the disciplines that you might support people in. This is really thinking about, well, what is it that I want to achieve in my teaching or the people that you're helping, and then selecting the tools that will support you to do that. So it's really about starting with these framework, these 7 basic principles that we're going to go through, and then working out what tools to use instead of doing it the other way around. Because where I work, I don't know if this is the same with you, Shaun, but certainly I might talk to people in my school about using intelligent agents, for instance, and they're like, yes, I want to use an intelligent agent. like, which one am I using? I'm going to use it. And you're like, well, what do you want to achieve, like, with using it? What are you trying to connect with your students? Are you trying to help them manage their time? What is it? So it's really trying to help them think about first what the outcome is, and then what tool to select that best supports that.
Yeah, and kind of building on that, I see some familiar faces from my last session. So I did a poll of, class sizes, and I knew that they were like below 30 students. So, in some cases, below 30 students in a face-to-face class, intelligent agents might not be the best tool. Hopefully through this, you'll understand exactly why and how to figure out which tool would be best for a classroom that size.
And maybe not for you if you're someone who supports teachers. It might be about helping them to think about the way in which they select the tools and what will work best for their particular circumstance. Mm-hmm. So hands up, has anyone seen Ganson and Chickering's 7 Principles? It's been around a long time. We've got a couple, that's good. So I think it was in 1987. It's a fairly highly cited paper. There's about 7,000 citations for it, and it goes through these 7 principles. And more recently, of course, these principles have been adopted for an online environment, and they work equally as well. So I think that's the best part about it is these have kind of stood the age of time. I'm getting really tired. I've had jet lag, really bad jet lag for the last 2 days. So the 7 principles that we're going to go through is about teacher presence, it's about peer learning, it's about encouraging active learning, having meaningful feedback, and time management, having this expectation that the student can always succeed, and looking at diverse ways of learning. So the first one is probably the one that is dearest to my heart, which is teacher presence. For me personally, when I have 1,500 students, many of them I will never see face to face. Teacher presence is number one. It's thinking about ways that I can connect with the student, that we can communicate with each other. Sometimes that's asynchronously. So it might be that I'm doing like weekly videos, or it might be synchronously. So it might be that one of the things we do is have live chat, that pop-up widget when you're shopping for like shoes online and they're like, can you help me? We do that. We have this pop-up widget that's like embedded in our Brightspace page, and we chat with students that way, and it's such a great way to connect with them.
So next, we're looking at cooperation and student engagement. So making sure that your students are starting to work with one another and that they're building a sense of collegiality, right? I personally, in my courses, do a lot of group work where the students are constantly criticizing one another and their work, sometimes negatively. And it's one of those skills, right, in building a team, in being able to say, you didn't do so hot on that last one. Next time, let's make it better. And encouraging that and accepting that criticism and moving forward and past that. Yeah. So, active learning. Obviously, learning can come in obviously 2 ways, passive and active. Most of it is passive that I see in the classroom. We're doing worksheets like we're going to have with you, except it'll be a little bit more active. Personally, in my classroom, I like to have my students get up, get around. Sometimes I even cancel class. For example, teaching sustainability at Mohawk College, we have one of the most sustainable campuses in Southern Ontario. We have all kinds of cool technology that's visible to the students. So an example of active learning is I set up a scavenger hunt for the students. So we canceled class, students got in groups, and they had to find all the sustainable technology around the campus. Every time they found one, they would get a hint about the next sustainable technology. As they went around, there were missions attached to every beacon. We used iBeacons. I don't know if you're familiar with those, so they could track it on their phone and they could find the technology. So they found the technology, they would get an assignment, they'd have to post into the discussion board and say, we found this technology, this is how it's being used, it could probably be better used this way or that way. And it was really active, they were running all over the college. Security kind of got a little bit upset about that. But I mean, having 75 students in groups, walking around with their phones, finding the technology, they were excited about it, it was a little bit of competition, and it stuck with them. and they remembered, how the technology was being used, how it was integrated, why it was integrated, and then we brought that back into class discussion in the next class.
And in my unit, I teach health psychology, so the principles of health behavior change, it's all about health coaching. So our major assignment is the students have to pick something that they're going to change, something that they're going to make themselves healthier. So we get people quitting smoking or running or eating less junk food. And what they have to do is this online diary about it for the whole trimester, and they have to apply all the principles to themselves. So we have students, and they have to do videos all the time. So we have students who are like running up a hill and videoing their like daily diary about how their running's going, and sweat's like pouring off their face, and they have to apply the principles in real time and talk about how their health behavior change is going. So it's really applied and interactive and applies really to their everyday daily lives. Mm-hmm. Prompt feedback. This is another thing that I love. So teacher presence and feedback are the two things that I spend a lot of time on. Again, because I have such a large class, feedback needs to be promptly returned. So they actually do 3 different diaries, like journals, that we give feedback on. And the way that we do that efficiently in 11 weeks is we give audio feedback. So we actually record ourselves talking to them about their behavior change, about the way they've applied the concepts. And we send them over 4,000 audio files in 11 weeks. So there's about 30 of us that are marking and talking to the students, and they absolutely love it. Our student satisfaction scores are really high. And one of the things that we have done in this audio feedback is that we do this thing called feed-forward feedback. Does anyone do feed-forward feedback? I'm sure there's some of you. John does feed-forward feedback. So feed-forward feedback, if you think about what normal feedback is that we're concentrating on what the student has done in their current performance, and we're talking to them about that current performance. In feed-forward feedback, we're actually looking to the future. We're thinking about how do we guide the student in their next assessment piece. So we're actually talking to the student and saying, well, look what you did here. In our next assessment piece, what we're going to be working on is X, Y, and Z, and this is how these two things marry up together, and this is how you're going to do better next time. So we're not like critiquing the current performance, we're actually just talking about the next assessment piece. And for us, I think that's what students have found the most meaningful, because they do their first journal, we're talking to them about journal 2 in our feedback, and they get that feedback a week before journal 2 is due, and they use it, and then they hopefully improve their score on the next journal piece. Time on task, is that you?
Take it away, whatever.
Okay.
You're good.
So I do a lot of research in self-regulated learning. So amazingly, you think students are going to turn up and they're going to be able to manage their time, but increasingly I find that they just kind of have no idea how to do that. So time on task is about emphasizing to the student that you actually just need to sit down and do some work, which seems pretty straightforward, but it's amazing how many students I at least have who wait till the night before to do their assignment. So some of the tools that we use to help time on task, some of it might be an intelligent agent, kind of targeting someone who hasn't done something yet.
Surprise, the Jackie video is intelligent agent.
But it's also about, having videos and talking to the students and like sending them checklists and saying, this is how you can use your time this week. This is what you need to do to make sure you're still on track. And you do something similar, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of collaborative tasks in my classroom, whether it's online or not. Believe it or not, I have in the past asked 150 online students to collaboratively draft academic essay in a group of 4. So they hated me, but they did really well. But the way that we manage that is by sending out an agenda, a timeline, so explaining to them, they don't know these skills, right? Time on task, you're gonna need to spend, 2 hours a week together working on campus or virtually, utilizing the tools, the locker, group discussions, all those sorts of things that are available through Brightspace to manage your time and get this task done. So we're constantly reminding them that there is going to be, a ton of time spent together working on this in order to get the grade that you think you deserve. Anyway.
High expectations. So the 6th principle is always about communicating to the student that you think that they can succeed. I cannot emphasize this one enough. All of our intelligent agents, of which I use a lot, but even the ones that are targeting the at-risk students, so the students who are not logging on to our Brightspace platform, the students who perhaps failed their assignment or failed to even submit it to begin with, all of those messages that we're sending out, the strongest message that we have underlying everything that we're saying is, hey, we know you can get back on top of this. Like, you still can succeed from here. You just need to re-engage with us. So it's always about making sure that that student doesn't feel like you're saying to them, oh, like, your grade was the crappiest one in the class, like, give up now. It's about making sure that they stay on track.
Yeah, and I think, it's contagious, right? If you're constantly telling someone that they can't, like, you can do this, and that letting the class know that you do have high expectations, you want their work to be the best it could possibly be, you're gonna see that feeding back through their submitted work. In one place I see this a lot is I have one of my classes draft blogs that are live online, and at first they aren't really 100% aware that this is like the whole world will see this if they are looking for information on what you're writing on. And once they know that, I'm like, we need this to be like university caliber, beautiful, perfect punctuation. I get it. We actually had a librarian find one of the blogs online and say, which professor drafted this? Like, no, these are my second year students drafted this, right? So they're confusing like hot top shelf academic work with second year students blog posts online.
You just called yourself top shelf.
No, I didn't say I was top shelf. She assumed it was top shelf. That's what I'm saying. Diverse talents and ways of learning. So this one can be tricky, and I've gotten a lot of arguments about how to handle this, right? When you have a classroom of between 30 and 100 or 100 and 1,500 students, there's different ways that students learn, and they have different strengths, and we can't assume that they're all going to be successful in the same way. So we need to be aware of that, and we need to build our courses utilizing the tools within Brightspace to have multiple pathways to success based on individual strengths.
Okay.
So here's a big list.
It's not an extensive list.
Yeah, it is
not an exhaustive list, I should say, of all the tools in Brightspace.
But these are the great tools that we get to use when we utilize Brightspace and building a classroom. And I don't use all of these at once. There are some on the list that we've actually not used.
I've never used attendance eating chart.
Neither have I.
Has anyone used that?
Really don't care what my students do. Really? You're pretty rigid, eh?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Good.
Poor Brett.
Makes sense.
But I mean, all of these tools have their place, depending on, number one, your audience, and number two, your delivery type. So the trick is, this is overwhelming, right? And the trick is figuring out what's best for your audience, what tool delivers the information as quickly and as appropriately as possible.
Yeah. So we really did not want to spend very much time up here talking. This was not not about us and the things that we were doing. We actually want to spend the time doing kind of two activities with you about picking the tools and thinking about which of these principles you might use. So the first activity on your activity sheet that I handed out, you'll see that it's a table that has all 7 principles along the top, and then down the bottom, along the side, you need to start putting in the different tools that you can use and ticking off which principle they actually might be able to fulfill.
Does anyone need another one? Yeah.
So this is the first activity. You can work with the person next to you if you like, or do it by yourself. Yeah. And we'll just spend about 10 minutes on it, and then we'll do the second part.
You're welcome. There you go. Sorry. You're welcome. There you go.
Oh my God.
Make sure you take a bunch of Tim Tams until they're gone, because Jackie's been complaining about carrying around this bag for the last 2 days. A Tim Tam is a delicious Australian chocolate bar. And we're going to explain what you do with a Tim Tam at the end of the presentation. You do eat it, but you eat it a very particular way.
Like, you've got it.
It is magical. Brett, listen, Brett, Brett, no, but.
I might even have enough for 2 Tim Tams. I'm pretty keen to get rid of them.
Okay, so
eating a lot.
Let's see if she can give 2.
I'll do a round and then I'll see if I have enough.
We'll see. But Brett, Brett here can verify that it's worth the wait. There you go, 100%.
Yeah, Brett can.
It'll be a
So the
treat.
list is on the slides. I know. Those are the items, yep. Yeah, so the items up here, the Brightspace tools that now when I look at it, white writing on that background, what was I thinking? You select like one and you put it in the column on the left-hand side and then tick which principles you think it might fit.
So you should have thrown this through the accessibility checker in Brightspace. You would have found that this was wrong.
Yeah. I know.
Well, it's Australia. They're backwards.
Is a magical thing. I had to print these in Australia. This is Australia paper.
It's war paper, yeah.
It travelled on a plane all the way here.
Yeah, it's nice. You could take that home with you. Feel it all the way home in the plane. To go home?
My pleasure.
Let's hope your flight isn't canceled.
Oh.
I'll see you at the airport on Saturday.
Why didn't I put all the items on the sheet?
Pardon me? Why didn't you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
You didn't ask my opinion, so I didn't give it.
I'm sorry. Oh.
You need to stay away from those speakers, Jaclyn.
I know. Okay, after all that, I really can give you two. So eat one now and save one for a Tim Tam Slam.
Dun, dun,
Oh, you're ready.
dun.
Oh, that was nice of me.
I really hope she has enough for two for the people that are eating them already. How many people in the room are from Canada? Okay, so if you're from Canada, I tried it. What we're about to teach you, I tried with a coffee crisp back home, and it works. It's amazing. We'll show you afterwards. Where?
Have I been here? No.
Ooh, okay. I don't think there's one of those around me.
One of what around?
You can get Tim Tams in Canada, apparently.
Well, you can get them kind of anywhere
Oh, they're
these
not the
days.
same, though?
But if you go to an international supermarket. Walmart, ruining the world. Like, where's culture gone these days?
Okay.
I totally forgot you, Brett. Sorry.
Okay, I've already had one.
Jackie, you want to go with the instructions, and then I'll hand these
Okay.
out? Yeah. How are you guys doing with the worksheets? You got your tools selected that you're interested in building out?
I just haven't done that side. Okay. So we've got our tools. This is the more important part. So with the person next to you, I want you to
You want another one?
wait.
You want another one?
I want you to select one principle that you are most interested in. So is that teacher presence? Is it improving feedback? Is it communicating high expectations? Is it active learning or diverse learning or peer learning? What is it? So think about the principle first that you want to focus on. And then I want you to work your way through table number 2 and answer all of the questions related to it. So it's about developing some teaching strategies to enhance your principles. So this is worksheet number 2. What are you going to work on? Oh, are you having a microphone?
Encourage active.
Oh, excellent. I've done it, I imagine. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming to our presentation. I hope you learned something. Keith has volunteered to do a Tim Tam Slam, which is the best thing ever that we got someone to participate from the audience to do it.
It's pretty awesome.
So he's going to come up the front. And there's coffee out there, so after you watch Keith do it, you can also do it. All right. Okay. So this is like the important thing. You need a drink, it needs to be hot. It could be like hot milk. I like to do it with coffee. It could be hot chocolate. Espresso martini, but it like needs to be hot, Sarah. Gently warmed Kahlua. Then what you need to do is take your Tim Tam. You're going to bite off each of the corners, just as Keith is doing now, so on diagonal ends. And you're going to dip your Tim Tam just a little bit into the coffee/milk/hot Kahlua/whatever. And you're going to suck the coffee through the Tim Tam. And when you feel the coffee like hit your lips, shove the whole biscuit in your mouth.
It is delicious. It's like nothing else you've ever done, see?
And it all just like melts and explodes. So make sure you give it a go. Maybe have a napkin or something with you because it can get a little bit messy.
2 seconds.
About 2 seconds.
Yeah,
Brett's telling us 2 seconds because you tried it yesterday, didn't you? Yeah, 2 seconds.
And you say this works for coffee crisp as well?
It does at home, except you want to break the coffee crisp down because the coffee crisp is like massive. Maybe, the Halloween ones would be great.
You can't steal the Australian Tim Tam.
No, it's not a Tim Tam Slam. But like, I know most of us are from Canada, so this is something we could do at home.
Yeah.
No? Okay. I brought her coffee crisp, so it'll be the first time she has one.
It will be, yeah. So now you guys will be a True Blue Aussie. So have fun with the rest of the conference.
And there's coffee just outside.